right, so we're gonna get started. We have a quorum to start the meeting. We're really excited today because we've got some presenters that we've all been waiting and anxiously to hear all of the good news that you have. So do I have someone to make a motion to approve last month's minutes for both the senior center and the senior center committee?
Motion to approve both.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so approved. Thank you. So we have our guest speakers today from the Rogerson communities. And we have several speakers. I'm just going to introduce Walter Ramos for him to start out. And then if you could just let us know the rest of the players as you go along, that would be great. So the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, it might be good to just introduce everyone, and then I'll do the introduction about Rogerson Communities, and then everyone here will speak about the specifics of the project and where we're at a particular time. So,
Jeremy Vieira, Director of Real Estate Development for Rogerson Communities.
Walter Ramos, I'm the President and CEO of Rogerson.
I'm Jonathan Garland, President of JGE Architecture and Design. We're the architects for the project.
Hi, I'm Joey Solasole. I'm a designer at GE.
I'm Kyle Sylvester. I'm also a designer at GE.
Thank you. So let me tell you a little bit about Rogerson, and we're really proud to be here in Worcester. We have a long history in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We began in 1860, so we've been around for some time. And our focus has always been providing housing and affordable housing and care for older adults. It is our mission. We are a nonprofit organization. We have approximately about 30 programs in communities. And our focus is really the well-being of older adults in just about every aspect that you can imagine in terms of housing and care. We have adult day health programs, which are primarily for working families in the greater Boston area. We provide a space for 2 meals a day, and a snack, and activities, and field trips, and not that different from what you do here. And the idea, of course, is to provide working families to allow members of their family to be able to go to work or do their daily activities, and to provide a good, safe, quality place for older adults who live in that family unit to come during their daytime. We also have assisted living, some focused on memory care, and that is what brought me to Rogerson. Prior to being at Rogerson, I was running Kearney Hospital as their president and CEO, community health centers, and Boston Medical Center as their chief administrator. And as I have, like many of us, a parent who started to show early signs of dementia, I learned even as a hospital president how difficult that was to navigate, how difficult that was to become a care provider, and how complicated that is for just about everyone who has to take care of that older adult and their family. And I leaned on this organization called Rogerson Communities for support on how I could take care of my mother at that very vulnerable time for her and for our family. And so near and dear to my heart is Rogerson House and our assisted living communities that focus on older adults who are experiencing dementia. We also have independent living in a variety of different places, as well as here in Worcester. And these are cottages or apartments for folks who want to downsize from a large home, but want to remain independent and have that capability. And so we provide independent living for all of our places. We take care of about 2,000 older adults, providing housing in a variety of different care. And then we have about 50% of our stock is affordable housing. Also near and dear to me, I served as a legislative assistant to a U.S. Senator doing housing many years ago, and as a housing commissioner in the city of New Bedford many years ago. And I know the affordability the present time, we're about 200,000 units short of affordable housing units. And that need will only increase as time goes on and the demographics change and grow. And the cost of housing continues to increase. So it's an important part of what we do. It's 50% of our stock. And we do affordable housing in perpetuity. The idea is we create affordable housing and it is to remain affordable housing. That is our mission, and that is what we are all about. So that tells a little bit about who we are in a nutshell. But a very large organization designed for the well-being of older adults. We have a very strong reputation in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in Boston, and we work very closely here in Worcester with Broward, it's their management company. And we're really excited about coming here and working with all of you to provide more affordable housing for older adults in need. So I want to thank you for inviting us here to talk with you today, and I want to hand it over to Jeremy, who is working particularly with this project for Rochester.
Thank you, Walter. Appreciate it. So Walter touched on many key points. I want to reiterate just a couple items just to sort of frame why we do what we do. Right now, it is projected that there will be 1.7 million folks over the age of 60 in Massachusetts by 2030. It is a huge increase from where we were 20, 15, 10 years ago. So the need for housing for seniors is incredibly robust, and it's such an important part of what we're going to need over the next few decades to keep our family housed and taken care of. There's also the need for 200,000 units of affordable housing in Massachusetts. Well known that Massachusetts is one of the most expensive states to live in the country by a significant margin. And the problem is only getting exacerbated as time goes on with interest rates where they are, the price increases over COVID. So you take those two pieces and put them together, and folks who are on a limited income, on Social Security, maybe just Social Security and a limited retirement, finding housing is incredibly difficult. So what we're trying to do in this project, which is the adjacent building what we call 128 Providence, we also hear it termed as the 1923 building, which was the original date of the building, is to bring affordable housing. So this is going to be structured as affordable apartment, independent living, that, and not to bore anybody with the details, but essentially that anybody who lives there, the rents are capped at 30% of their income. So that folks aren't paying 60, 70% of what their Social Security checks would be for housing. So that is how we're envisioning this particular project and how we're structuring it. That'll evolve over time. We're very early in the financing stages, but that is the intent and how we're going to proceed with this particular project. This project is actually, you hear talked about, this is the existing building. I'll hand it over to Jonathan in just a moment to explain kind of our vision and what we're going to be doing. But it's essentially going to be in two different phases. There will be the rehabilitation of the existing building, and then the addition on some adjacent land of a new building. So altogether, those two properties are going to house approximately 98 units. And that'll fluctuate a little bit over time as we dial into the design. But that's where we stand now. So we have an incredible site here with the senior center adjacent. The synergies I envision are just going to be incredible for having homes on this property adjacent to the senior center, the community that brings. So we're very excited about it. I'm very excited about it. And with that, I'll hand it over to Jonathan to go through the specifics.
Thanks, Jeremy. So again, I'm Jonathan Garland with JGE Architecture. And I just want to double down on what Jeremy said about the potential synergy of a senior community, or really an active adult community, between a place where you can live in direct walking distance to a facility like this. I think there could be a lot of potential that comes out of that. So hopefully this Google image does the job of orienting everyone to the site. It's lovely that we can have this meeting essentially right on a site or adjacent to. But this is the existing 1923 building that we're talking about here. The senior center is in this L framework here. Providence Street is at the north of the page, Winthrop Street along the side. So that adjacent plot of land that we're talking about is this triangular piece, and that would be where we would locate an addition that would tie in to the existing building, and altogether we proposed 98 units. This is a very good image that kind of depicts the overall vision, you could say. We understand that the existing building is on the National Register, so we will be doing a thorough job of everything from brick repointing to window restorations, window replacements that can be more energy efficient. Looking at, there's currently a pediment roof. We would go back to the original design, which has more of that, decorative railing on top of the roof overhang. And we'll be looking at, really trying to improve the quality of the masonry and the facade from the exterior. And then on the interior, we're also trying our best to preserve the internal hallway, which has a beautiful sort of semicircular arch, nice wide hallways. In today's market, you'll see like 5-foot corridors. What's lovely over there, there's nice 8-foot hallways, so we're really gonna try to preserve that character in the building. And then we're really trying to be sensitive to the existing building with the new addition. First and foremost, we want to make sure that we're lower in height to provide deference and hierarchy to the larger structure. It's almost like a grandfather-grandchild relationship that we see there. And then looking at sort of a red or a terracotta that's not brick, so we don't necessarily copy what's there, but we have something that's complementary to what's there. So like a brick and a limestone mix, we think can really bring about a beautiful addition and complement to the existing building. This is a photo that we think was taken sometime around the 1930s. And as we go through the process of restoration, we'll be looking at what's in the historic archives. We are working with a historic advisor as well that is really an expert in this space. So all to say that we're going to give this building a lot of love and care as what it deserves. It's a fixture in the neighborhood. It has a great visible presence on Providence Street, and we're going to work hard to preserve that. In floor plan, you can see now the existing building here, which is this H with the senior center sort of completes the fourth edge of the courtyard space. I believe we just took a tour with Amy here, and she was able to point us to the interrelation between the two, and it's a really interesting space that the courtyard provides. And then you can see here that we're proposing the new addition, or really called the new wing, off to the left side of the page, and still leaving enough space for outdoor space, some sort of active programming. We will be able to have an accessible pathway to the entrance, so whether you are in a wheelchair or you can, you're ambulatory, you'll be able to get to the entrance in an accessible way. We are proposing here 2 entrance points, so the addition would have one and the main building would have one, but the main building would be the main entry in. Again, here's a snapshot and just putting some labels, so renovation to the historic building, new addition to the side. Looking at the floor plans or the interrelation between the two, if you kind of follow this dashed line through the building, you can kind of see how we've worked our way from one side of the building to the other. Looking at the grading, there is some topographic change, vertical change between the buildings. So we're using stairs and elevators to sort of mix in this area. We kind of call that the mixing chamber, where you can come in if you're a resident in the new wing. It's an easy way to get in. If you are part of the existing, you can still come around and come through, and vice versa. You can also come from the next level up and down through this. So we just wanted to demonstrate that we have thought about the interrelation and the need for connectivity between the buildings, which also means the social programming that we propose, whether it be community space, laundry space, other types of amenities, there'll be the ability to share between the two. So looking at the floor plans, the renovation itself, we're thinking would house about 53 units, okay? And most of these units are 1-bedroom units. There is a small percentage of studio and two-bedroom, but by and large, the vast majority of these units are one-bedroom units. And there's 53 in the existing building, which is a 4-story structure. There will also be in this building what we're calling a community great room. It's kind of like a mixing space where you can think about active adults coming together, some sort of social programming, and the ability to get out of your unit and mix and mingle with other residents. Common laundry space. We often hear with senior housing, laundry is a cool place to hang out. It's a very genuine place to chat it up, and so we definitely want to put emphasis and interest in the look and feel and just the comfort level that a laundry space provides. A fireplace lounge, you'll see that right by the main entry. There's some beautiful millwork in the building. As soon as you come in, we really think about that space as being the fireplace lounge to really celebrate the architectural millwork that already exists. A mail package facility will be at the first floor, as well as a trash chute on each floor. So residents won't have to carry bags of trash outside for miles to hit a dumpster. They'll be able to be right on their floor and hit a trash chute, and facilities will take it from there. And again, here's the little connective piece. And one other point I wanted to mention is that this is that nice super wide hallway, the 8-foot hallway. We've also done a lot of great care to try and preserve all of the existing doors that are on that hallway. If you can ever take a tour of that building, there's some beautiful doors, nice thick casework, transom, glass transoms above the doors. So we really want, when you're walking down the hallway, to feel like you're in the original space. All of the renovation will happen from the hallway into the exterior wall. So the real work with new kitchens, bathrooms, and things like that will happen inside the hallway, but we really want to preserve the look and feel and character of the hallway, if that makes sense.
How many elevators are in the building?
We're proposing 2 elevators here in the existing building.
And the typical square footage?
Of the elevator?
No, sorry. No, of the
Of the units, about 650 square feet for a 1-bedroom unit. And the challenge has been the proportion. I mean, obviously, you'll see in the new building how we have a little bit better of a proportion, and that's simply because of the new building ability, right? We're really working hard to work within a narrower footprint that has wider hallways and leaves less to work with. So these units are a bit longer, but we think they're actually quite spacious and they work really well.
And one thing I want to mention on that point, Jonathan, is typically on a new build, you would do a window at the end of the living room, a window in the bedroom, and then all the space goes in. So you generally end up with 1 or maybe 2 windows in each room. If you look at the way, because these are long and we have to work within a very tight construct, you can see how many windows are in a unit there. It's going to be and these are giant windows. The light is going to be absolutely incredible. And I think that's something that when we were originally looking at, certainly when not being an architect and looking at it the way I look at things, I'm like, geez, this thing's going to be really long. And not seeing the benefit that's going to come from it. And having seen this plan when it was come out, I was ecstatic to see how much light is going to be coming into those units. So
Are these, I'm sorry, are these like floor to ceiling windows? Or are they pretty close to it? I can't remember what they look like, so.
Yeah, they're not floor to ceiling, but we would be using the existing windows.
Okay.
So I think it's partly the grandeur of the window itself and then also the quantity of them. The other point to mention is the only room that's closed off in these units is the bedroom, and obviously the bathroom. But when you come in, there's this open concept feeling where the kitchen is part of the living room, it's part of the dining room. So there's an expansive space that you feel. And then again, the only things that are closed off are bathroom and bedroom and closets. But we've tried to open it up as much as possible. This floor, so this is the lounge. So you'd come in at the main entry here. We aren't showing it yet, but in the plans would be the need for an accessible ramp to get up to the main porch area. We will try to do that as architecturally sensitive as possible and in close connection with the Mass Historic Commission and the National Park Service, but we do anticipate the need to get wheelchair access up to the main entry. The building is raised off the relative grade a couple of feet with some stairs in the porch, so we will have to work through and get a ramp at least to the main entry, which is on this side of the building. So when you come in, there's this entry lounge. This has some beautiful architectural millwork. That's where the fireplace lounge would be. A great place to wait for a ride, wait for an Uber, see what's outside, meet your friends, residents as they come and go in this open fireplace lounge. Office space, so that's like management for the building, the leasing office, things like that. Mail package is not far away, so USPS and FedEx, they don't have to walk very far. They're all in this main zone here. Some staff restrooms, file storage, all of that front end is kind of in this quadrant. And then also you're very close to the elevators, right there, the elevator bank. We're planning to retain these 2 stairs at either end of the building. And then you start to get into the balance of the units, which is along this leg, certainly along the middle spine, and then down this zone. This area here is actually part of the senior center program, so we've been very careful to kind of work with what's in our sandbox and what isn't in our sandbox. As you move up the building, a lot of what you saw at the first floor, except we don't have all of that front end program, so we've been able to fill out this quadrant of the building with additional units. Moving over to the addition or the new wing, this part of the building would house 45 units. So between the renovation of the 53 and the new of the 45, that's how we're getting to the 98 total units. Everything here is a simple 1-bedroom unit. You can probably see the vast difference in proportion of unit layout. And again, that's just because we have a wider building to work with and less width on the hallway. And that makes all the difference. But these units work well as well. You come in, there's a kitchen, a dining room that's part of the eat-in kitchen concept, and then it flows right into the living room and out to the window wall. Then you have a bedroom and a bathroom closer as you come in. And they're pretty much repeats of one another, so they're sort of lined up like soldiers. We'll get 9 per floor, and we'll be able to work it that way. And then here again is that secondary entry lobby. It won't have all of the front end functions that you saw in the main building. We really would encourage all guests and all visitors to come through the main lobby for secure check-in. But if you are a resident here and you already have a key fob access, this is a very convenient way to come in and get to your unit. Trash, we're also working hard to share the trash room between the 2 buildings and bring that out through the back of the site. As you go up the floor, very similar to below, it just doesn't have the secondary lobby function. And then again, back to the outside, so that's a shot from Providence Street at the main corner. That's a bit of a different angle, sort of as you're coming down along the adjacent side street there. You can see more the breadth of the facade and sort of the interplay between the 2. We're starting to pick up some of the horizontal datum lines between the buildings to stitch them together. We're looking at window sizing, both of the new and the existing, and window spacing, so that there is a language or vocabulary that's happening between the 2 buildings. That's a look at that secondary entry point that is lower. We're happy to get a nice blue sky moment between the 2 buildings, so we can really make sure that the existing building stands alone, it's respected as a historic asset, and then next to it, we're proposing this new sensitive addition. A little bit more shot of the architectural character of the new and the existing together. We're also going to work hard to preserve major mature trees like that. The good news is we think that tree is far enough away from the construction that we should be able to preserve that. And I think that might be the last image there. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
Is there parking for the residents here?
So
Parking lot?
so what we did show you is there is an alternative on the new one that would have a small parking garage in the first floor. We're trying to work out exactly those details right now. Yeah. Not a huge parking lot, but a small one. So we're going to see which iteration ends up working out best. And
That was my question.
Oh, that's the same question. Yeah, any other questions? We're here to answer anything. And I want to iterate that this is very early. The architectural team has done an incredible job. I mean, this is normally when you get much later in the process than really thought through so many details so early. I'm thrilled about that. And Jonathan, you guys have done a fantastic job on this. But we are very early in the process, so we're working through things. Things will change on this as we go through both the process with Mass Historical. We're in the early stages with them as well, and as we go through our financing process. So just to give folks a little bit of the detail of how this financing on a project like this works, generally speaking, there is a tax credits that come in that help fund a major portion of the equity, so that you're allowed to keep rents very low, and then you have the financing to make up that gap. So those tax credits flow through the Massachusetts, they just changed the name, but I believe it's called Housing and Livable Communities Department. And so we're going to be going to them likely the very end of next year, or it's actually likely February of 2027 is their next round. And so we're hoping to get this in that round so that we can receive tax credits for the project. So that's how we're trying to do it. That really dictates our timeline on the project and holds me accountable to move as fast as I can to make sure we can hit those dates. Anyway, I'll open that back up to questions.
How long it takes the project from the beginning to the end to finish?
So it depends on when we get awarded. So my goal is to put an application into at the end of 2027 or February, I'm sorry, the end of 2026 or very early 2027, depending on what that round date is. Following that, we would, if we get awarded, we would go in the ground likely the very end of 2027 or early 2028. And again, that is all dictated by the housing rounds and tax credits and a bunch of state funding, which we are thankful to be in Massachusetts, who works really hard. I mean, affordable housing is such a priority. It's difficult, but it's such a priority at the state level. And so we're seeing a lot of hard work from the state level representatives to make sure that they have funding available, despite the challenges with Washington and there's some changes on the national stage of how that funding is going to play out. So
you'll be able to see Jeremy get me underneath the table. I do want to tell you that our board strongly is in favor of creating as much affordable housing as we possibly can, given the crisis that we are experiencing. So they have given us a mandate to try to create, not try, to create 1,000 units of affordable housing within 5 years. And the whole idea behind this board, and it was the Harvard CAP team that helped us, along with our board, develop this goal, is that that isn't going to solve the problem of 200,000 units. But if all of us who are in this nonprofit space are concerned about older adults take on the challenge of creating a large amount of units within 5 years, we'll at least make a very serious dent in the situation. So I know whenever I bring up the timeline, Jeremy starts to hyperventilate. It is our goal to have that many units created in, either in the ground or close to occupation in 5 years.
When you say break ground in 2028, is that both buildings or just the first one? If not, what's the schedule of the second one?
So it would likely be both, and we're working on that financing structure right now. One, and I'll detail it a little bit, we can also discuss it a bit offline. The way this is going to be structured is there are 2 different tax credit processes. There's something called a 9% tax credit, which the new building will qualify for, and a 4% tax credit, which the historic building qualify for. In addition to that, there's state tax credits that come in, and also historic tax credits that will be coming in for the historic renovation. So exactly how the timing of those interact, I haven't quite played out all those scenarios right now, and there's a number of different permutations of how that play out. But right now, the way it looks is that they could ostensibly happen very close to one another, because they're not both 9% or 4%, there's one. than another, so we should be able to get them on a parallel track.
Hi. Being that it's so close to the road, what kind of security things are you considering putting in terms of access, in terms of window tinting, anything like that? Because it is, I think, a lot of the senior housing around Worcester, if I think about it, this is probably one of the closest to a main road.
You mean like the side road that's here?
Yes,
Yeah.
two big, the Providence and the Winthrop, they're right, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
we can look into that, what we might need to do there. I will tell you that we believe the new building will be lower than the road, just given where the grading is. So if you can imagine, Winthrop will be a little higher, because our site is relatively lower, so that difference does exist, but we can look further into sort of like any kind of window tinting that we might need just for the perception of added security. But because they're lower, I don't think we'll need traffic bollards or anything like that, given that we won't, we're just not at the same grade as the road is.
Door access, things like that.
Yeah, and I can talk to the access a little bit. So we haven't gotten to that level of design yet, so we'll get there, and this will be, there's a whole separate consultant that comes in and does that, so it's really fantastic. But generally speaking, buildings, this will be fobbed, so there'll be a fob to enter, a keypad so that if you're a guest, you can call up to the unit, that person will either get in their unit a notification, or generally on a cell phone. The cell phone will dial and say, hey, you have a guest up, they can buzz them in from the cell phone. There'll be extensive cameras within the unit, within the building, not within the units, within the building corridors and community spaces as well. And then we do have a leasing office that will be in the front, that will be open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. So that improves security, and that's right in that main entrance as well. But on off hours, it's generally a fob and a phone.
Thinking of that underground garage, is there gonna be a fob type situation where to get into the garage, you have to have some type of pass to get in?
I don't think we know that yet,
Okay.
likely not. But we don't think we're quite there yet. We're just
Okay.
sort of at the very
Yeah.
beginning of looking at what a parking garage might look like there.
You might wanna think about.
Yes.
This might
Given our area.
This might be premature as well, but do you anticipate putting in like a easy access to the senior center for them instead of having to go around?
Well, I think that's a question we have to speak with Amy about, and we're not there yet, but I think it could be a great idea. There would be, security challenges that need to be worked out, whether the senior center would be comfortable with that, so that's a conversation to come. We're certainly open to it.
And thinking about that, do you have the vision yet for the courtyard? Which
No,
we
so
just
we- no, I-
envy.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask that.
Yeah.
Exquisite. We have not engaged a landscape architect yet, and so that's why, you see the design of the floor plan level, we have not engaged an architect. There's a lot of incredible things that we can do with that courtyard that we intend to, we just haven't gotten to that stage of design yet. But I think that's a really special part of this, and having those units on the interior, looking down, a beautifully landscaped courtyard, I think it just feels European almost. I mean, it's just a special little space.
So-
we'll get there. for
So
sure.
that outside porch, like, that goes all the way around,
Yeah.
you'll be looking at keeping that, or?
That is a challenging one, and I hate to keep saying this, but we're not there yet. We're working with Mass Historical Commission. They're gonna really be the ones that govern that, and it's beautiful. It's also extraordinarily expensive to repair structure because it's some severe structural issues. Not that it would collapse, but that would need to be repaired for it to be used on a regular basis. So we're looking into all that now, and I think it's going to be an ongoing conversation with Mass Historical to determine, and the cost. And we're having a structural engineer
Is there any community space on the roof by chance?
There is not, that's not
Not yet.
So one thing I'll mention just about the roof space, the historical building, I don't think we have the correct pitches up there to make a community space. On the new building, likely, and again, this is something that we'll explore more, the new building will be built to passive house standards. And so it means hyper insulated, very, very, very energy efficient. Generally speaking, the roof or the bulk of the roof in that scenario has to be ready for solar panels, or will have some solar panels on it. So you lose a lot of the roof, but you gain a lot of savings and sustainability that way. So,
Just one other quick question. And if you addressed this, I apologize, but I was just kind of wondering what will there be in terms of keeping the apartments weather type friendly? Is there going to be like central heat, central air? How's that going to work?
Yeah.
That's easy.
I've lived in New England long enough to know you absolutely need AC, you absolutely need heat. Those are not negotiables. The existing building, while will improve its energy performance dramatically from where it is now, will not be able to achieve passive house. It's just too tight a requirement. But it will be vastly improved from where it is now. I mean, just swapping out the windows would be an incredible improvement in energy efficiency.
So the existing windows are the kind you can open?
Sorry, I missed that.
I believe they are operable, yes.
The existing windows can be opened.
They can be open.
Yes, they are operable.
And being that there's no walking distance stores around here, is that something you would consider putting in a small tuck shop in the building? Because
What was that?
the small,
Convenience store.
I call it tuck shop, but
Convenience store.
a little convenience
That's not
store that would
generally
be
something that's in our buildings, but
considered.
certainly something that they could just go. I actually have no problem. It's a very.
Oh, you open one.
At least just a machine or some kind.
I'm curious about how long we will be in active construction.
So generally, construction period is about 18 months. So that is, they will vary, the historical might be a little longer, or a little less. We haven't gotten there yet, that'll come later as we engage with the GC. Well, we actually have engaged with the GC, but as they detail out the thoughts and the structure of that. But generally speaking, approximately this magnitude would be about 18 months. I will point out one thing. The last 6 is much, much easier than the first 6. So the first 6 will be generally the loudest. On the interiors, on the reserve rehab, it's not, most of the work is happening on the inside, so it would be less disruptive. The new building, there is going to be, it's going to be external, there'll be some excavation happening, so that will be a little bit more nuance about that. And then as things get enclosed, it gets much quieter because the windows are up and everybody's inside, and it tends to be much less disruptive.
You might mention that some of the units will have 2 rooms. Did you say something like that? There were 2 rooms and 1 room?
There are, most units are 1 bedrooms. There is, I think, 1 2-bedroom or 2 2-bedrooms. And they always, when I say 1 bedroom, there's a bedroom, a living room, a bathroom, and a kitchen. So that the kitchen and living room is kind of all 1 bedroom, and then the bedroom is closed off. There's also, I think, 1 studio in the renovated building, because the renovated building just has more constrained spaces. So sometimes you end up with a layout that works better as a 2-bedroom or works better as a studio. Right. Did I get that right, John?
You got it exactly.
So you'll be going, you said long ways, so that will be taking up like at least 2 of the currently dorm rooms?
Yes,
Or more than
that's
2?
correct, yes, about a little more than 2. Closer to 3, yes.
Wow.
What about like the ceilings, like here, like so tall? Like, is that gonna, drop ceilings or anything like that?
I mean, that will certainly improve the feeling.
Yeah.
No matter, I mean, we've designed spaces that are relatively small or atypically proportioned, and we've noticed that increased ceiling height definitely makes a difference, to the point Jeremy talked about, with more daylight coming in, bright reflective colors, newer finishes, all these things contribute to a nicer space. I don't think we anticipate drop ceilings at the moment. We'd like to retain as much ceiling height as possible.
Will there be a price difference between the old building and the new?
Well, we don't know exactly what the AMI, sorry, it's set by the state as part of the tax credits. So we don't know exactly how that's gonna be structured, because I won't bore you with the details, but it's about an 80-page document that explains it to me, that I gotta read through. But generally, it will fluctuate right up until we put an application in for those tax credits. But the idea is that they would be all affordable, meaning no more than 30% of your income. And up to people who qualify, they have to income qualify, so you have to show how much money you make, how much money is in your bank, et cetera, to make sure nobody's trying to cheat the system. And so that if you say, generally speaking, make less than 60% of the area median, that's kind of the qualification threshold. And then sometimes it's 50% units, so if you make a little bit less than that, you get to qualify. The rent's less, and if you make even as much as little, I should say, as 30%, there's still sometimes units available. So we don't know exactly how that's going to be structured, what the count will be, but that will come out in the next year or so.
But you're saying that it's not just about income, it's also, there's gonna be an asset test.
There's an asset test as well, but.
What's what would be the?
Right now, I believe it's,
threshold?
your retirement savings does not count, and it's 75,000, I think, in total assets right now. So there's two thresholds, and those change rarely, but they do change, so you don't know exactly what those caps will be for next year. As soon as we do, we'll let those know.
With the need for so much housing, how are you then going to decide who gets in and who doesn't?
That is a fantastic question. So there's a lottery system. So a few months before we're set to open, we will release the lottery. There's marketing, you guys will get marketing brochures to pass out to people. People will apply via a portal, generally a website portal, where people can put in their information, their income, etc. And they'll apply, and then we run, right before opening, we'll run a lottery. And if, let's say there was 100 people and there's only 98 units, only 98 people will get in, and the other 2 will go on wait list. And that's generally how it's done. And that's what we anticipate here. So it's a lottery system.
Yeah, I can just say it's very heavily regulated. And the good part is the government, state, local, have regulations in terms of who's on the list, how long they're on the list, who's next on the list when the unit becomes available. And we follow those guidelines strictly. We have to. If you don't, of course, you have penalties to pay. The sad part about that is we have long waiting lists for all of our affordable housing unit situation. And sadly, many of the people who are on our waiting list may perhaps never get an affordable unit because the list is so long and the amount of units available in the state so few. So again, that's why we are so pressed to create as much affordable housing as we possibly can to reduce that situation as much as we can.
Yeah, we're in the process now of completing a 63-unit senior affordable project in Hyde Park in Boston. And there's 2,000 people in the lottery for 63 units.
We'll have 10,000.
Yeah, so the Walter's point, the need is definitely there.
We have people want their name on the list now.
I mean, all through construction, people were coming up saying, how do I get on there?
The lines go around the block when you go to big building. It's just, and I mean big, long city blocks. It's shocking, and actually just denotes how serious this situation is and how quickly we've got to get units built. You know, when 10,000 people apply for 80-some odd units, that's unbelievable.
Would there be some kind of residency requirements, just hearing the amount of people with this, that it will be more local people in Worcester, or what would that look like in terms of who can be in the building? Yeah.
Yeah, generally speaking, and again, this is all regulated in a really elaborate document that we have to follow. But generally, there's a preference given for a select amount of units for people in Worcester or the region. So, but that's not always the case. It depends on how the regulations are. I've had here, so that could change. But that's generally how it's done. There is some set aside for residents or preference given to residents. I don't know if that will end up being the case with this project, but oftentimes it is.
Is that the same for the age?
So the age will be a requirement. I believe on this one it's 62 plus. And so that is with some very, and I'll mention there are some caveats to that. Generally speaking, it's if you're a guardian, if you have a guardian of a child that's under, or a person that's under 62, a spouse or something like that, there can be some carve-outs to that rule, but generally speaking, but it's very rare.
And how many handicap units are there going to be?
So the new building will be all Group 1 accessible, and by virtue of the extent of construction that we're doing on the existing building, those will also be. So when I say Group 1, I mean visitable. That means somebody who's in a wheelchair that comes to visit you can get through the doors, they can, they can sort of get around, and then there will be a subset, I believe it's 5% of the total unit count, that will be full-blown accessible. Roll under kitchens and roll in showers and grab bars near the toilets and all of that.
And Jonathan, on this particular project, forgive me, I should know this off the top of my head, but I did not. What percentage is adaptable generally?
All of the Group 1s.
Will be
all of the
adaptable.
Group 1s are, they're visitable and adaptable, which means if you rent a unit and somehow, God forbid, you break your leg and you can't get around, your unit is designed to be adaptable without structural change.
And that often means, for instance, there wouldn't necessarily be a grab bar in the bathroom, but there would be the blocking so that if you need it, you can call our management team, they'll come out, they will put in grab bars for you.
That's great.
So that's a really important thing. I think the adaptability is important because not every resident wants those because they do take up a little bit of space, but it's easy for us to put them in if folks need.
And are the showers, are they walk-in showers? Every shower, is there gonna be tubs?
Currently we're showing, if you go back to slide, I think we show, so here we have the showers. Go back to the renovated building.
And I believe there are tubs.
And we're showing the tubs here, yes. Yeah, so there are tubs.
I would think they'd be zero threshold.
They shouldn't be.
Zero, right.
Yeah, zero threshold would be the
way to go,
ADA.
Right,
because
but-
if they're.
but I don't think we're doing zero for all of them. We have the curve
Oh.
that comes off and can, like it's a removable curve.
Oh,
Yeah. So again, like, because we want to kind of prevent it from just water damage. There have been instances where you keep the water on and even though you have a floor drain in the shower, a floor drain in the bathroom, water on just overcomes that. So we like to keep the curve on. But if you are in a situation where you need it off,
oh, okay.
This may sound like a silly question, but these units are not specifically designed for just one person, right? You could have a couple
Yeah.
moving in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's got one bedroom.
Yeah. Of the 2,000 that you have now, that you're serving, approximately how many are, single or couple? Do you have those numbers or no?
I don't have it in my head, but I would say predominantly single.
Yeah.
We do have married couples.
Yeah.
It varies depending on the location. So
Yeah, it's
some of our
wonderful.
CCRCs tend to have couples
Yeah.
in the cottages in independent living, and as people progress, perhaps need more accessibility, they tend to be more singles when the units get smaller, but it varies.
It's really fantastic what you have come up with, and you should be commended for the work that you've already put into something that you haven't even, begun, putting the shovels in the ground. And I can say just from my perspective, being a board member, it's very encouraging to know what your mission and your vision is for the senior population, and to help with that. It's extraordinary, so thank you.
Thank you.
You mentioned earlier solar panels on one of the roofs. Is that going to, so energy-wise, is that your main?
No, yet, it will not be the main source. It will be an offset to a portion. This building will be, I believe, all electric, is that correct?
Yes,
Yep.
all electric.
So it will be all electric. That's generally how our buildings are being built now, is all electric. But as for a source, we don't know exactly how much offset it will be, but it will likely not be the entire building, unless there's some really big leaps in the technology in the next couple of years.
Where is your company based out of?
Rogerson is in Boston, where the corporate office or administration offices are in Rosendale, or
Okay.
Rosendale Square. But our properties are pretty much all over the place.
All right.
Primarily in the metro Boston area, but also western, southeastern Massachusetts, and on the South Shore. So
Nice.
we're expanding.
One
Our
last
founder
suggestion.
was from Boston,
Okay.
Beacon Hill, in 1860. And started with providing a home for aged men. And as one of our board members said this, there were, what about women? And so then there was the home for aged women. And we combined organizations, it became Rogerson. So it is no longer gender-based, but that's how it began.
One last question from me. Language barrier sometimes is a huge thing for people to apply to communities for buildings such as this. Would you, I'm hoping that you would put that into consideration when you're putting out literature and things regarding the building, when you're coming close to the end.
I was going to mention that along the lines of the neighborhood preferences you were getting at, and understanding Jeremy's points about the thick document that's highly regulated, but our experience, having seen it, is, and I'm sure Rogerson does this as well, is looking at information that can be multilingual, and also putting the word out, locally can help, just so that people that are locally understand what's happening. And then working with local, nonprofits or other agencies on applicants and creditworthiness, and making sure that they're in a position, to meet the application.
I can honestly say that adapting and accepting every culture is something that Rogerson does best. We have the Hung Log House, Chinatown, which is primarily Asian community. We have the Council Towers in Roxbury, which is primarily Latino and African American communities. We have Beacon House, which is and Hale House, which are in Back Bay and Beacon Hill in Boston, that is very multicultural. And the whole idea behind Rogerson's mission is that we would like everyone to age comfortably in community. And that means that we provide activities support, sometimes fitness first programs, trainers who are, speak different languages, come from different cultures, the same with computer centers and the like. The idea is that everyone can age with dignity and respect and in a culturally acceptable community. And so that's something that I think we do phenomenally well and is part of our fabric of who we are.
Could you clarify how you mentioned there are lots of regulations around, how you can select potential tenants, how much they are supposed to pay. So, like, how will it actually work? I mean, any organization, this senior center has a budget. I'm pretty sure this place will have a budget too, right? And you cannot not have money because you have to pay staff.
Yeah.
So if everyone pays bare minimum or almost nothing, right, you won't be able to operate any organization. So how will it actually work? You mentioned that people won't pay more than 30% of their income, but the reality is that if they make almost no money, well, you have to get money out of somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So will there be several tiers?
Yes.
Like we'll have 10 units for people with this income, 10 units with people with higher income. How will it work?
Yeah, so you hit on a lot of very good points. So there will generally be tiers. So there'll be a tier for 10 units for people who make up to X, and then 20 units for people who make up to, and generally they're all lower than 60% of AMI. So meaning, and I'm just gonna throw a number out. If the AMI in the area is 100,000, anybody who makes 60,000 or less can apply. So that's generally how that's working. It's 50% AMI would be 50,000 or less. So that's how those work. You make a great point with the financing. It is challenging. I think that's why affordable housing is so difficult to develop and why there's such a need for it, because it is challenging. I won't dive too much into the financing, but the tax credits I mentioned earlier, so generally what will happen, there'll be some subsidies we'll get from the state level. There'll be tax credits that you will get for, from the state level as well for the historical rehabilitation. So they'll say, okay, to make this historical project, to complete it, get all the windows replaced and all that, $10 million, we'll say, okay, you can get off your taxes $10 million. Then we take that and we go usually sell it to a bank. It's much more complicated than that. But we basically say, okay, bank, you guys have profits you need to offset. You got $10 million of credit. They'll say, okay, I'll give you $9 million for that. And so we use that as the equity in the project. So the project doesn't have to take out as big a loan. So it doesn't need as much money to operate. And that's I did a horrible job of explaining that, but that's vastly more difficult than that. But that's roughly the idea. So we get a bunch of tax credits that we sell to banks. Sometimes Warren Buffett can come and say, hey, I got some extra money. I need to use it. It's not, usually it's not Warren Buffett, but that could have it. And, I give you $9 million so that I can save 10. And that's how that works. And then the balance comes from subsidies from the state on a per year basis. And will also come from some small amount of a permanent loan from a bank, like you get a mortgage on your house.
But if you do know Warren, we have a philanthropic office, and we could certainly use some donations. So, please give them our card.
Well, we certainly are grateful for your time that you spent with us today and filling us in on everything that's going on. I think that I'm even more excited about this project. I think you've looked at a lot of different things and are taking a lot of things into consideration. We look forward to having updates, and thank you for coming. You're welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting if you choose to. You have fun. Yeah, I just have to close it out. We could just give everything. Just Yeah. All right, so I'll just.
We have to fill the process.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so what we can do for the rest of the meeting, seeing as it is 5, if you would all like read through your reports and the notes, and then at our next meeting, we can take a vote on that, your approval of what was going on.
Sounds good.
Is there a motion for us to do that?
Yes.
Motion.
I have a second?
Everybody say so.
All in favor?
Yeah.
Any opposed?
No.
So approved. So we will meet again on November 24th at 4 o'clock, and it will be virtual.
Oh, yeah.